Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about whether the Bundesbank, which is the German central bank, has fired a shot across the bow of the ECB. Have they warned the ECB by actually buying gold for the first time in 21 years? That was reported yesterday on Bloomberg, and I'll go over that this morning. Before that, I'll talk a little bit about my background and why the Bundesbank is very important as a central bank. I know I'm totally against central banks. I don't think we need a central bank in a free market, in a free country, or any kind of system. I think central banks create moral hazard, right? But if there is a central bank that has towed the line, so to speak, to sound money and the market, it is the Bundesbank. And I remember very well from working in the city, from working also in Switzerland. When I started out in Geneva, Bundesbank was very well respected, and it still is as a central bank. Remember back in 1994, I think it was, or 93, I don't remember exactly the year, but we used to watch German M3 data, money supply data, like it was the non-farm payroll of Europe. It was so important because people knew if that M3 growth was above a certain level, that the M3 would be very tough and hawkish. They'd probably raise interest rates. And I'll never forget the day M3 came out at 30% for Germany, which was huge. I think they had a target between 3 to 5% annualized M3 growth, and it came out at 30. The markets went crazy. I was a futures and options broker, of course. I didn't work on the floor. I worked in the office. So my job was to talk to clients elsewhere on the phone, and they didn't talk directly to the floor. So I would go to the floor to my colleagues and put the orders in from the office. And it was the kind of day we had a big dealing room at GNI. GNI was one of the biggest futures broker in London, and it was just mayhem. I found out the next day that I bought, I think I sold 50 extra Bunds, the German future, by accident. It's very easy. You give the order to the guy in the link, the guy who's in the Bund link to the floor. He's taking orders from other people, and you don't think he got it, and you give it again, and he does it twice. Luckily, yeah, it was an error, and we found out that we are short 50 Bunds extra. Because don't forget, all the trades are for clients, not for GNI. But luckily, the firm was up $50,000. So I could have very well had been in trouble there, even though I think under the circumstances, it was understandable that errors would have been made. I was lucky it was a positive error. But I don't think I would have been fired even if it was a negative error, because it wasn't, yeah, it was a mistake that was easily made under those conditions. So that's how important the Bundesbank was. It moved all the markets. Everyone watched it very closely, not only in Europe, but in the US. And before I go also into what came out yesterday about the Bundesbank and how much gold they bought, I want to look at this book here that I've been reading. I'm almost finished with it, War and Gold by Kwasi Kwarteng. And there you go. I recommend it, War and Gold, a 500-year history of empires, adventures, and debt. And there's a part here, very interesting, about the end of the war, World War II, and how the American military administration in Germany set up the monetary system, set up the banking system, and it could only have been done through a military government, but they set up something that was quite interesting, and I'll read here. So let's have a look. Unsurprisingly, coupled with the concern for a sound currency, there was reiterated the old warning about the need for balanced budgets. A dual prohibition stands athwart the path of budgetary deficits. The first of these prohibitions was the dictate of the military government currency reform laws that budgets should be kept in balance. As if it were not enough, there was a prohibition included in Article 115 of the new Western German Basic Law against any borrowing except in the case of extraordinary need and as a rule only for expenditure for productive purposes. In addition to these prohibitions, the creation of fiat money, even for investment purposes, in the form, say, of a central bank credit to the Reconstruction Loan Corporation, was to be resisted. The Allied Banking Commission will still exercise final control over the policies of Bank Deutsche Länder, the new central bank, which would become the Bundesbank in 1957. And it goes on to say the German central bank was to become famous for its determined fight against inflation. So there you go. Ironic that as a result of World War II and the aftermath, actually the American military administration set up a very sound footing for the German currency and the banking system. And it's reflected today. Too bad it wasn't kept also in the U.S., but you couldn't have a military government do that in the U.S., could you? Am I saying we need a military government? No, I'm just telling you why and how the Bundesbank has become so important. And the ECB was set up on the same fundamentals and basics of the Bundesbank, but it seems to be getting away from those principles, right? The ECB, by printing money, by setting negative interest rates, something I don't think the Bundesbank would have ever thought of doing. So there you go. That's how important the Bundesbank is. So the story yesterday, it came out on Bloomberg from a reporter called Ranjita Pakyam. I got a screenshot of this. Someone tweeted it out on Twitter. I couldn't find the story online. I think it came out on the Bloomberg terminal. That's why we couldn't see it. But I got the screenshot here. It says Turkey, Germany add to gold reserves in September. IMF data show. Turkey raised gold holdings to 17.29 million last month from 16.49 million in August. Data on IMF website show Germany's reserve climbed to 108.34 million ounces in September, the first increase since 1998 from 108.25 million a month earlier. So I calculated it's 90,000 troy ounces they bought, which is the equivalent, let's say at $1,500, it's $135 million, which isn't a huge amount for a central bank. Of course, for you and I, it would be great if we could accumulate 90,000 ounces. So the significance here, the first time in 21 years, but also back in 1998, it was the year just before the euro was created, right? So is this a warning to the ECB? Is this a vote of no confidence in the euro by the Bundesbank? We'll have to see. We'll have to see data for this month when it comes out in about a month's time. See if the Germans continue to add on to their gold reserves. So very interesting. The Booba, that's how they're known as well, the Booba, Bundesbank, buying gold again. Bundesbank is what made the Deutschmark such a strong currency in the 70s and 80s. I think there's even a song, is that Tina Turner, about having Deutschmarks, right? So Deutschmarks and Krugerrands were in the late 70s. People wanted to have those. What about the markets? It's a little later this morning. It's 8:35 a.m. London time. So yesterday, stock markets were doing well throughout the day, but didn't manage to close up on the day. They actually turned south. S&P finished below 3,000, which seems to be a level people are looking at. So it finished at 29.95, down a third of a percent. This morning, we've got gold up just over $3 at 14.91. Range has been 14.87 to 14.92. So still in the consolidation. Silver is up about 3 cents at 17.54. Up slightly. So the outperformance we saw earlier in the week is kind of stalled a little bit for silver versus gold. The stock market is continued to go lower here. The Dow future is down 26 points at 26,763. S&P future is down another 5 points at 29.90. NASDAQ 100 future is down 0.5% at 78.35. Sterling down 0.1%, 128.57. Euro unchanged, 111.24. Dollar down 0.1 versus the yen at 108.36. And the dollar is unchanged against the Chinese yuan at 707.89. Crude oil down overnight, but up from yesterday when I spoke. We're at 54.10 WTI. It's down 0.2%. Brent is down a third at 59.23. I'll finish off with the bond market. The 10-year yield right now is down 2 basis points at 174. The 2-year is down 3 at 156. Just before I finish, just wanted to update you on the repo market. Yesterday, one of the term repos, which is a repo that's longer than overnight, usually a 2-week repo, there was an oversubscription of 1.5 times. That means the system needed more than what the Fed provided. So that's not a good sign either. The repo market, which is the plumbing of Wall Street, as it's called, is still in trouble. That means that banks out there probably don't trust each other if the Fed is having to step in and be a counterparty for these people. They're supposed to be on the sidelines, the Fed, watching banks lend to each other, and that's not happening right now, so that's not a good sign. Bundesbank, is it just a technical thing they did? Bought 90,000 ounces of gold, which is equivalent of 900 contracts on COMEX, or is it the start of something bigger? We'll have to wait and see for another few weeks to see what they did this month. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you share this video far and wide with people you think would enjoy this kind of content. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.